Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am incredibly excited to dive into this material with you because we're looking at a genuine medical mystery today. We're exploring some of the most high mortality viruses on the entire planet. We're talking about pathogens that honestly can easily bypass modern medicine. But what if a forgotten, century-old historical treatment actually holds the key to our defense? Today, we're going to break this down into a few main areas: the threat itself, the body's hidden alarm system, the sheer science of heat defense, and how historical hydrotherapy and lifestyle habits could be a real game changer for our survival.
So that brings us right to the core question we're exploring. Could a 100-year-old hydrotherapy secret, basically simple heat and specific foundational lifestyle interventions, actually combat severe global threats like hantavirus and Ebola? I know, it sounds almost too simple to be true, right? Especially when we are so used to incredibly complex pharmaceutical solutions. But the science and the history presented in our sources today paint a truly compelling and honestly pretty surprising picture. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the threat of deadly viruses. To really understand the solution, we first need to grasp the sheer magnitude of the threat. Our sources detailed two highly dangerous viral strains that are currently making headlines. First, you've got the Andes strain of hantavirus. Now, unlike other strains that mostly affect the kidneys and have lower mortality, this specific South American strain targets the lungs. And alarmingly, it was recently documented spreading from human to human on a ship originating from Argentina. Second, there's an emerging strain of Ebola in the Congo and Uganda called the Bunda-Buju strain. Unlike the Zaire strain you might have heard of, there is currently no approved vaccine or monoclonal antibody treatment for this one. It causes severe bleeding and is transmitted through bodily fluids. And this right here brilliantly illustrates why health experts are losing sleep. Both of these specific viral strains, the Andes hantavirus and this new Ebola strain, carry a terrifying mortality rate of roughly 30 to 40%. At that level of mortality, our current global supply chains and medical infrastructure would be incredibly strained. It makes prevention and our own innate resilience absolutely critical.
Moving on to Section 2, the body's alarm, interferon. So how do these highly lethal viruses manage to cause so much devastation? The doctors in our source material use this brilliant analogy to explain how these viruses bypass our natural defenses. They describe a crucial protein called interferon. Think of interferon like hitting the silent bank alarm when a robber walks in. It immediately alerts the security systems that an invader is present. But these lethal viruses, they actually possess specific genes designed to actively suppress that alarm. They essentially cut the wire to the interferon response, which lets the virus replicate completely unnoticed.
This leads to a massive problem in your immune timeline. Your innate immunity, which relies heavily on that interferon, is like a fast-acting air force that neutralizes threats right away. But when interferon is suppressed, your body has to wait for its adaptive immunity. Think of that as the heavy, slow-moving army boots on the ground. The problem? That army takes about 7 days to actually arrive. By then, the virus has spread so widely that the army's response causes massive, deadly inflammation, often called a cytokine storm, and that is what actually lands patients in the ICU. But here's the flip side. When the body actually has enough interferon, the results are incredible. The source cites a very powerful study published in the New England Journal of Medicine regarding COVID-19. They found that just a single subcutaneous injection of interferon dropped the number of patients requiring emergency room visits or hospitalizations entirely in half. It really proves just how highly effective this alarm system is when it's functioning the way it's supposed to. Which brings us to Section 3, the heat defense mechanism.
Now, what's really interesting here is this. If interferon is the biological solution, how do we naturally boost it before the army has to come in and cause a cytokine storm? Well, the sheer scale of the body's natural response is fascinating. Benchtop studies show that raising the body temperature to 39 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 102.7 degrees Fahrenheit, triggers a massive 10-fold spike in interferon production. It doesn't just increase a little bit, it multiplies exponentially once you hit that temperature threshold. And it doesn't take much to get the process started. Even a single degree Celsius increase in temperature acts as a biological switch to flood the body with interferon. Because of this, the physicians in the source material offer a pretty compelling warning. They note that artificially lowering a mild, low-grade fever with medications like Tylenol might actually suppress your body's natural interferon response and prolong the illness. The fever is literally the body fighting back.
To put that into perspective, the source details a fascinating Brazilian study testing this concept with infrared light. Infrared penetrates deep into the body and shuts down an inflammation receptor known as TLR4, which is essentially a trigger switch for massive inflammation. In a placebo-controlled trial, Patients wearing a jacket emitting infrared light for just 15 minutes a day saw their average ICU stay drop from 12 days to just 8 days. That is a massive 4-day reduction in hospitalization just from targeting these natural inflammatory and heat pathways.
Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds into the historical evidence of hydrotherapy. You see, this modern benchtop biology actually builds on some incredible historical medical precedents. Objectively looking at the history detailed in our sources, the results are pretty staggering. During the devastating 1918 flu pandemic, 120 students at the Hutchinson Seminary were housed under one roof. While many caught the virus, not a single one became severely ill, which was largely attributed to their rigorous use of hydrotherapy. Then, jump to 1927. Dr. Wagner Joring literally won a Nobel Prize by curing neurosyphilis through fever therapy. He intentionally induced fevers using malaria. This intense heat therapy actually remained a global standard of care right up until antibiotics took over in the 1950s.
Today, the physicians note they still utilize these methods for really tough cases, like chronic Epstein-Barr viral infections. The hydrotherapy protocol they describe involves a gradual immersion in warm water to reach a peak body temperature of about 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which is then maintained for 20 minutes. Now, obviously the doctors strongly caution that this should only ever be done under strict medical supervision, because it is incredibly taxing on the body, but the resulting viral clearance they've seen can be remarkably effective.
And that leads us into Section 5, Lifestyle and Mind-Body Defense.
Shifting gears over to prevention, our sources present specific claims about how foundational habits act as a sort of protective immune shield. The physicians propose an acronym to help structure these preventative measures: New START. This stands for nutrition, exercise, water, which includes things like hydrotherapy and just general hydration, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, specifically highlighting sleep to boost melatonin, and finally trust. They argue that rigorously applying these principles primes the innate immune system to fight off viruses before they ever even get a foothold. To back up the nutrition aspect of that, the source highlights a study from the British Medical Journal that observed diets prior to COVID-19 infection, and the data is striking. Those on a plant-based diet had a 60% lower risk of severe infection. On the flip side, those adhering to a low-carb, high-fat, high-protein keto diet experienced a 250% higher risk of moderate to severe infection. Basically, what you eat before you get sick clearly dictates how your immune system is going to respond. Strictly reporting from the source material here, the physicians also draw a fascinating connection to historical and biblical dietary laws. They note that the book of Leviticus warned against consuming what it labeled unclean animals. And they point out that natural reservoirs for massive pandemics often stem from the consumption of these very animals. For example, fruit bats are the natural reservoir for Ebola, and civet cats were linked to SARS. They propose that adherence to these historical dietary guidelines could serve as a major preventative measure against future pandemic spillovers.
So the crucial point they're making is how all of this ties together into what the sources call the three-legged stool of wellness. You need physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. The sources report on a study by Dr. Krauss, which showed that individuals who practice unconditional forgiveness and maintain deep spiritual trust actually have drastically lower anxiety levels. And because anxiety is a massive immune suppressant, cultivating this spiritual and mental resilience literally prevents your innate immune system from being dragged down by stress.
Which brings us to a close with a very provocative question. As modern medicine continues to race forward with all these incredible new technologies, could our absolute strongest defense against 40% mortality viruses actually be hidden in our past? Between 100-year-old hydrotherapy techniques, the biological alarm system of interferon, the sheer science of heat defense, and the profound impact of foundational lifestyle and spiritual peace, the sources make a pretty compelling case that we might already possess powerful tools to boost our innate immunity. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this structured look at the biology and history leaves you curious to explore how you can optimize your own innate defenses.